Well, you know, the Pistorius arrest for allegedly shooting dead Reeva Steenkamp, dominating local and international headlines. Crucial information, as we now know in the case, has been leaked to the media, prompting a wave of speculation as to what actually happened that night. Well, let's speak to William Bird from the Media Monitoring Africa organisation. He's the director there as well. Mr. Bird, good morning to you. First question I'd love to know from you, is Oscar Pistorius being tried by the media?
I don't think so. I mean, it's not something that the media can actually do, and it's something that's used very, very frequently. And you see it with politicians use the claim, celebrities use the argument. Are they speculating madly? Some of them, yes, and probably irresponsibly in some instances. But are they trying him by the media? Not by a long way. I don't think they're sitting there and weighing up evidence and so saying, well, this clearly suggests that he's guilty of a particular offence.
Because the public and the critics of the way the media handle big stories, whether it be Nelson Mandela, whether it be this particular instance at the moment as well, there is criticism that the media is making assumptions, they are making resolutions, they are making statements that I suppose some people could suggest could sway the courts, but that's obviously not the case. The courts will not take into account necessarily what is said by anybody outside of the judiciary.
Yes, so the one key difference between South Africa, for example, and say the United States is that there they have a jury system, and that's where they do need to be a lot more cautious about the media coverage before a case, before a trial, precisely because they think that if they don't yet know who the members of the jury are, one or two of them or many of them could be influenced by the media's coverage, and therefore that would bias ultimately the trial. But in South Africa we don't have that. We have a judicial system where a judge presides over a particular case, and that's what's going to happen here. So that same sort of concern doesn't appear. So it means that the media are fully entitled to speculate. Clearly though, what you do want them to do is to be as certain of their facts as they can be. They've got to balance up this idea of they don't know any more information, and yet there's huge public interest in this, and they're under enormous pressure to try and make sure that they're able to keep the story going, keep the story driving, and find new and different angles to it. Hence you're seeing that all of your reporters are at the different places, even though, to be clear, at this time of the morning there's not terribly much going on at a crematorium. But that urgency for news, and because of the way that news operates these days, it means that of course they're going to be there, and of course they're going to speculate, and if they're not getting news from places, that's going to happen. So the Mandela case is a very interesting one to contrast with this, because what happened there was government went silent for a few days, again, despite not having learnt their lesson before. And so what do they think media are going to do? They're going to speculate. They have to, because they've got to fill their airtime.
Interesting that this morning, Karen Morn, my colleague, is going to be in the courts, potentially as one of the very few selected journalists allowed in, because there are so many. Karen saying last week there were hundreds of journalists. Clearly, physically, you can't fit them all into a courtroom as well. How important on the discussion we're having, Mr. Bird, is it that you can have media and journalists inside a courtroom to follow something like this?
Well, I mean, it's critical because you need to make sure that you encourage the idea and the notion of open justice, that people know and understand how the court system works, and that they know and understand and are able to follow the trial. What we have seen, where some media, and I imagine that the judge this morning is going to be very angry, because we did see some media went and published images of Mr. Pistorius in tears, which was during session when he had specifically asked for no images to be taken. So some journalists are clearly in contempt of his order, and I imagine he's going to express some very strong views about that this morning. And it may be that he decides to say, well, we're not going to allow cell phones, we're not going to allow this, and this. I mean, he may even blank out the windows in the actual courtroom to stop people taking images from outside.
You would agree, perhaps, as a final question and statement to you, Mr. Bird, to allow you to respond, that considering what has been in the media already, this has had an impact on Oscar Pistorius. Sponsorships are already pulling out. So even though the trial has yet to begin per se, already the effect of what the media has been able to put out has already had a massive effect.
Oh yes, there's no doubt that his image has taken an enormous knock. I think critically, though, there's no legal, except for the contempt of court issue, there's not a legal case against the media. But should it be that he is in fact found innocent of these charges, he may very well have a very strong case of defamation against a number of our media and people that have been on social media, for example.
Wait to see. That's another whole debate as well, social media, isn't it? Mr. Bird, as always, a pleasure to have you in this morning. Media Monitoring Africa Director, William Bird, joining us on the show.